Welcome back to Toast Sports Baseball, episode 22. Basallo makes a splash in his Orioles debut, the Brewers streak finally ends, and the Phillies rotation takes a big hit. The Dodgers also stayed hot out in the NL West, and the Rangers face a make-or-break week for their playoff hopes. Let's go ahead and jump in. Cue the music. All right, let's start it off with the biggest news of the day, if not the weekend. The Brewers, who had just been absolutely red hot, finally lose a game, show that they're somewhat human. They almost made this one a game late. The Reds ended up taking it in extras, 3-2. Joe, is the MLB happy to see this over? Would we have rather have been longer? Do you think it'll happen again for a third time? I'm hearing all sorts of conspiracies around the Brewers lately.
14 wins in a row is a lot. This is their second 10-game plus win streak of the season. But the way they play, I think anything's possible. I think they have the cheat code right now of stealing games from other teams from what we discussed from last episode. But I also think they had a softer portion of their schedule, which kind of helped with their 14-game win streak recently. And I think they're pretty lucky to get out with a series win against the Reds. It seems like that series the Reds kind of gave away at least 2 games to them. But kudos to the Brewers for figuring it out and being able to win the series and ultimately have a 14-game win streak.
Yeah, to that point, their 14-game winning streak consisted of the Nationals, the Braves, the Mets, who at the time I believe were in a 1-9 rut, and the Pittsburgh Pirates, and then they finally had that that win streak come to an end against the Cincinnati Reds, like you said. And yeah, both their last 2 games went to extras, and Cincinnati had them on the ropes in that Saturday matchup, but they just kept fighting back. Every time you'd look up, the Brewers be down, and then all of a sudden they'd put a heck of a run together. I actually believe it was the Friday game. I could be fact-checked on this, but I believe the Brewers went down 7-1 or 8-1 and fought all the way back, and it was still only like the 4th or 5th inning, and it was 8-8. So, they definitely have a knack of being able to manufacture runs, even when you think they're down and out. Casey, looking ahead at their schedule, though, they're starting to have to play some top-tier teams, some teams that are either first or second in their division, and it's a long list of them. Are they going to be able to stay as dominant as they've been over the last, call it 2 months, or do you think they're going to trail off a bit here?
Well, I don't know if they're going to rattle off any more 14-game win streaks, but they're in first place, and they've had 2 10-game win streaks, one being, 11, and one was 10, and then one was 14. And they were able to do that because they're just a good ball club. Everything seems to be going right for them when they get behind. They don't give up. They've got a lot of grit. I think they had a 7-run comeback on Friday. Saturday they won in 14 innings. So they're just scrappy, man. They do all the right things. They're in the right place at the right time. They make contact when they need to make contact, and it makes for a really hard team to beat. So yeah, I like Milwaukee the rest of the way. Maybe not as dominant as they've been during this little stretch here, but we're about to find out. I think they're playing the Cubs, 5 games starting this week, and so that's going to be a good test for them right there. Going to be a good test for the Cubs, and there's major implications on the division that week. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But I like the Brewers, dude. I think they're dirty.
Classic. Classic as a Cubs fan, by the way. We get Mizorowski back this week for the Brewers, so that's a lot of fun. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, looking at their remaining schedule, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 series left. Of those 12, they have 5 teams that are currently in the playoff picture, which is the Cubs, Blue Jays, Phillies, Padres. So 4 actually. And then you have 2 teams that are just out of it, which would be the Reds and the Rangers. So I'd say they have a pretty favorable schedule. And they could definitely make another run, especially from like Pittsburgh Rangers, Cardinals, Angels, Cardinals. And there's 12 games that maybe they can win 80% of them probably. So I think they gotta. I don't think anyone's gonna be catching them.
Yeah, I mean they've built up a pretty decent lead here. I believe the lead is now sitting at 8 games over the Cubs. That the only thing that can change that, I think we kind of talked about it before. Fast. The only thing that can change that is the Cubs go 4-1, 3-2 even against the Brewers and put a little bit of pressure on closing the gap there, and then the Cubs go on a nice tear. You know, I think the Cubs also have one of the weaker schedules coming up, but they got to get it together offensively. When you look at that NL Central, obviously it's a hell of a division. 2 teams over 70 wins already this year. But when you look
what's up with the Cubs booing Kyle Tucker?
You know, I got a hot take on that, but I'm starting to kind of feel like not only do the majority of fans have some sort of disdain for this extended slump that Kyle Tucker's in, I think there's starting to become this idea of we don't even want you back. I know that sounds crazy, but he hasn't performed all that well. He had a hot start. He's been really bad, and it's been like a 2-month period now. I think the Cubs fans are just like they're over it, and I know that I think part of it is what you gave up to get him. He hasn't performed well. The team around him hasn't performed well over the last month or so. So I think that there's just a lot of animosity towards the Cubs organization in general. I don't know that it was fully directed at Kyle Tucker. However, his lazy ass did not even jog down to first base. So that's going to get a reaction out of a fan base when you're, by the way, losing games to the Pirates at home, and you kind of look like you don't give a shit. So, you know, my hot take would be Cubs fans are starting to feel a little bit of animosity towards him and his effort level and what he's giving the organization. He's being paid millions of dollars. We put a lot of capital to go get him, and he's not really showing up every day. So I think that there's probably a lot there.
Yeah, I would say that if you're going to be in a slump, you can't, if you're the guy and you've put a fan base through an excruciating year of, are we going to re-sign him? Is he going to be a Cub forever? Or is this going to be like a thing that we just overpaid for and it's going to be a short little stint? And then you start not performing, and then you get lazy and your effort goes away too, while the team's struggling, while the team needs like a leader to be the guy that's always doing the right things to try to get out of that slump. Yeah, dude. The boos are coming if you're going to be that guy. I don't care if you're Kyle Tucker with the Cubs or, if you're Aaron Judge with the Yankees. If your team's goes from first place to 8 games back in a month and a half, you got to run out your ground balls.
Yeah, it's pretty outrageous.
Yeah, I'm just really glad that the Cubs traded for Michael Soroka, the art of stillness, to get them through the slump and to really persevere them onward and forward in the 2025 season.
It is crazy though when you look at what's plaguing the Cubs. I'm 100% with you. That was still one of the most outrageous trade deadlines. I will not let that go over time. But when you look at what's plaguing the Cubs over the last couple of weeks here, it's not pitching. The pitching's been fine. They're allowing probably 3 to 4 runs per game on average at most, and the offense is just showing up with 1 and 2 runs a game. It's not going to get it done. What was propelling the Cubs earlier in the year was the fact that they'd be able to outscore teams consistently. They were putting up an average of 6 or 7 runs per series, or per game per series, and it was you can pitch at a 5 ERA and still win games. So it's just not happening right now for the Cubs.
PCA's got like 3 hits in the second half. Kyle Tucker's not hitting. Michael Busch not hitting. So the thing that I mean, they're all doing it at the same time. So I mean, somebody's got to step up and get hot and go on like a little streak here and help get.
They
this
really haven't
offense out
played
of the
anyone. You know, it's not like their schedule's been extremely tough.
No. I mean, Toronto was a tough series for sure at Toronto. They also did play Cincinnati, who they've been playing pretty well. They just gave Milwaukee all they could handle for 3 games. They played Milwaukee during this kind of tough stretch. But
And they had Royals, White Sox, Orioles, Cardinals, Pirates.
And Boston.
And that's too far in the past.
We're not going to talk about that series. The second half has consisted of a couple of good teams, a couple of bad teams. When they've played bad teams, they've typically taken 2 games out of 3. They've not been sweeping anybody, which is an issue when you're playing the likes of the White Sox or the Orioles. You got to sweep those series usually. At least take 2 out of 3, which they've done. But you got to get into a few series where you absolutely dominate. That's just not happening.
So the Cubs in March, April, and May, they averaged 5.9 runs per game. Since July 2nd, they've averaged 2.4 runs per game with a 192 batting average.
Yeah.
Sounds like the scouting reports are out.
That is dreadful. Kyle Tucker's hitting 182 since the All-Star game. Kyle Tucker's hitting 182. Suzuki's hitting 185. Dansby's got a 518 OPS. Michael Busch has a 505 OPS. Carson Kelly 602 OPS. We've already touched on the fact that PCA's been a ghost, a shell of himself out there. So yeah, dude, that's like half your lineup is hitting under the Mendoza line for a month and a half.
The way
and that's
I look
why
at
the
that,
Brewers
though,
have an 8-game lead.
Well, that and the fact that the Brewers ripped off like legendary, like historic win streaks. But I think the other thing that if you're taking an optimistic view at this, which by the way, I tend to not do that because I'm so pessimistic about this freaking team. But when you step back and look at it from a 1,000-foot view, you're still 70. You have 70 wins. You're 70 and 53. You're in second place in a division that's had a team just go on a ridiculous streak that nobody else in baseball would be competing with either. If we put them in their division, they'd be hella games over the second place teams in any division. And then the optimistic piece would be this team's not going to hit like this forever. Maybe this is the time to have the slump and then get hot again toward the end of the season and go on a run. I mean, that would be the optimistic view.
Yeah, that time would be Monday.
Yeah.
I would just assume that the Cubs people in their lineup all had historic first halves, and there's no proven history of any of them besides Kyle Tucker really being a offensive hitter, and everyone else has just had career first halves. And now reality's setting in. So we'll see what happens.
You don't love to hear that, AJ. You don't love to hear that.
The pushback there would be Suzuki's shown to have a pretty solid bat. Kyle Tucker, I agree, he's another solid bat. Horner's always a guy that's well over 280, 290, if not into the 300s on batting average. Dansby Swanson's been a habitual 15 to 25 home run guy, anywhere in between there, almost every year of his career. PCA, I think he's not probably as good as his first half, but I don't think he's as bad as his back half here so far. And that's just to name a few guys on the roster. I think Michael Busch he's still hitting. He's starting to get hot again. I think he already has 3 homers in his last 6 games. So, I mean, there's reason for optimism if you're looking to turn the page, if you're the Cubs. I don't know if it's going to be enough to get back into the divisional race. But what I do think is if you kind of start putting it back together and building it back, pitching stays intact the way it has over the last month, you're looking at a pretty solid team heading into October.
Got to get PCA to start performing again. He needs to even out and be who he is. He doesn't have to be, MVP caliber, but he just needs to be who he is, which is just like, a little bit better than Michael Harris.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can agree to disagree on that one. But yes, the young guys got to get going. I think that's a key piece in any Major League Baseball team, especially ones that are in contention. Speaking of young guys being good at the plate and being talented, Samuel Basallo got the call from the Orioles. I believe he was like the number 8 overall prospect in all of baseball. The kid's huge. 6'4", 180 pounds, and he's only 21 years old, from the Dominican Republic. He went out today, got a big league knock in his first game, drove in 2 against the Astros in a 12-0 win for the Orioles. Pretty cool to see a guy like this, especially with the size that he's got, come into the league. That's always exciting. I think anytime that you can get top prospects into the league and they perform game one, it's always exciting for everybody around the league. This has to be exciting for O's fans, though, with him only being 21 years old and at the catcher position, while Adley Rutschman, which he's been kind of struggling over there at the catching position. Maybe this gives the team a bit of a boost going into next season.
Yeah, ranked number 8 in baseball as a prospect. Let's see, this year in AAA, he was hitting .270 with 23 home runs and 67 RBIs in 76 games. He's got some extreme power. 95 mile per hour average exit velo and a 57.1 hard hit percentage, ranked top 5 in minors in both. So yeah, the Orioles are super high on him. The industry's super high on him. And so this is, we kind of touched on this in the pregame. What's it going to be? Is this going to be one of the O's prospects that hits the ground running and never looks back, kind of like Gunnar Henderson? Or is this going to be, Adley Rutschman 2.0, where he comes up, he kind of tears it up for a little while, and then he just fades into the abyss? I mean, Rutschman was like the talk of the town, the talk of the league for, almost a full year, and then has just been dreadful ever since. So, Jackson Holliday, mind you, he's only 21. He hasn't really gotten it going. Colton Cowser hasn't really gotten it going. So there's a lot of young Orioles prospects over the last 3 or 4 years that we've been chirping about, and only one of them has actually, I would say, lived up to the hype, and that's Henderson, and all the other ones have been kind of, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're the Orioles, you bring up these guys like Basallo, and you give them their month and a half to see what they can do, and I think the Orioles should have a very active offseason with starting with trying to get a Gunnar Henderson extension, whatever dollar amount he wants. I believe you give it to him, which I would think is going to be around $500 million. You lock him up, and then you're going to play with your prospects and see what you can get to build another, playoff relevant team, which they had only a year and a half ago. And I think they have a lot of interesting trade pieces for the offseason, including Adley Rutschman, their outfield depth. And then from a starting pitching standpoint, they'll have Kyle Bradish coming back in a week or so. And then you'll have Grayson Rodriguez should be available for the start of the season next year. And, you add a couple free agents, you get some guys signed long-term, and you trade away some pieces that you're have a surplus in. You're looking at a very quick rebound and rebuild for the Baltimore Orioles. And it'll be interesting because the whole thing about them is that they got this new billionaire owner, and they were supposed to be able to lock up these people like the Braves did, and they've really sat on their hands this first year. So I don't know if it was just wanting to see what the Kobe Mayos could do, and once they brought up Basallo and their other guys into the mix, and then kind of decide who they want to keep long term, who they want to send out, and how to supplement their roster. But you feel like they got to get something done before the 2026 season to have some type of direction for this organization.
Yeah, they really gotta focus on their pitching. I understand, you got Bradish coming back and Rodriguez, and I like those guys' arms. Rodriguez is a bit unproven still in my eyes. I think he's still got a lot to prove. He was a number 1 overall prospect. I think he's probably going to be good when he comes back, but he's had an up and down injury situation. I think one of the big issues plaguing them going into this season was they let a guy in Corbin Burns just walk out the door. I understand Corbin ended up having the elbow injury this year, but that was a guy that you could he already had him on your roster. He was seemingly willing to resign, and they just said, "Nah, we're good. Go over to the Diamondbacks." It's just kind of weird the way they approach this offseason. I do agree, though. It's possible they kind of took a wait and see approach, and if their offense just went ballistic with all their young guys, they thought Charlie Mortons of the world could get it done for them, but it didn't happen. So now you got to kind of start from scratch really again. But it's a good start for a guy like Basallo. I think they still have a good bat in Adley Rutschman. I hope that he can get it back together. He's had some injury issues as well. They all have. Gunnar was injured earlier this year. They've had some outfield injuries as well with Colton Cowser earlier in the year. So you're going to get a lot of guys cycling into that DH role. So it'll be interesting to see how the offense performs down the stretch here. I like their young guys, but you got to really put it all together. Westberg's another guy on that team as well that I think is going to give you a good bit of
Beavers, Cowser.
Yep.
So many, dude. I think that's part of the reason why, like Joe was saying, the owner hasn't really locked up anybody yet. But who on that team outside of Gunnar Henderson has actually removed all the question marks? Like every other guy in that organization still has, whether it be because they just haven't had an opportunity to prove it yet, or they have, like Rutschman, and they just haven't really shown it yet. But nobody's really removed the question marks. The only one that has is Gunnar Henderson. So I would say this year would probably be a really good year to go ahead and lock him in. There's 3 after this year. There'll be 3 years of arbitration. So if you can go ahead and lock him into a 10-year deal at 25 and have him until he's 35, I think that would be a good start to solidifying your future, especially since you do have so many interesting pieces that are young that you can kind of supplement him as the cornerstone and then kind of build up around him. You got plenty of guys to do that with. So, and speaking of Rutschman, I really like the idea of having 2 quality catchers who can both swing the stick, and then you can just use them as your DHs. One guy in one series, you'll have one catcher catch 2 or 3, and then the next series, the other guy catches 2 or 3. You keep them off their feet as much as you can. You keep their bats in the lineup so their timing stays, on point. I think the Braves are going to try to do that with Murphy and Baldwin unless there's just some major holes that we have to fill, and then we'll look into moving Sean Murphy. But I think the Orioles are probably going to take the same approach and try to keep both of them, make both of them quality behind the plate, quality at the plate, and rotate them around and utilize that DH spot.
Yeah, the Royals have done that for a while too, right? With Sal Perez over there. They've cycled him, and now a lot of that's had to do with age, but they've had Maldonados who could swing the bat a good bit, Freddie Furman's. They've cycled guys into that catching spot that still have a little pop in the bat and get Sal Perez just in that DH spot.
Get him off his feet, but
he performs.
He keeps his timing, dude. It's hard to. It's a skill in itself to be able to miss a couple games and then come back into baseball and be on time. It's hard to be a pinch hitter. It's hard to be a bench guy. So if you can keep both your catching bats in the lineup, then that's probably the best way to get the most out of your catcher position. If one guy's catching all the games, unless his name's Cal Riley, he's probably going to fall off after the All-Star break and kind of slow down with the bat. So,
yeah. By the way, I saw this kid, Sam Basallo, in person. played the Charlotte Knights in a series earlier this season. He's a specimen, dude. He's a big guy. He looks the part, and when he swings the bat, it feels different than the other guys at AAA. Let me put it that way. It comes off the bat different. You can hear it. I think he's going to be a really good major league player. I'm excited to watch him. I hope that he can keep up. I know Joe's worry usually from the catching position is how long can you keep up the offensive production with the catching duties? Hopefully they're able to manage that appropriately, because I think he'd be a fun watch.
I think he got a knock, went ahead and got his first knock out of the way, and a couple RBIs in his first game.
Yep.
So off to a good start.
6'4", 180 pounds. Sounds like he needs to grow into his body a wee bit.
21.
I think the one.
So
I think
we'll
the
see.
one. I think the 180s is probably over. I think that's outdated. Let me put it that way. When I saw this kid, dude, I'm telling you, I think he's closer to like 220. He's kind of a big dude in the box, and he also manned first a little bit when I was at the game, and he was a pretty big guy over there as well. Let's go ahead and talk about some big news. This could be really tough news if you're a Phillies fan. But Zack Wheeler was just placed on the IL with a blood clot in his right upper extremity. It's near his throwing shoulder, which is of serious concern. Dave Dombrowski came out and publicly praised the medical staff for identifying the clot early, it says. So the reports are, I guess, somewhat promising. However, this is not something you want to hear in the late stages of the year. Obviously, the main focus here is I hope Zack Wheeler is actually doing all right. Blood clots are nothing to piss around with. But when we look at it from a baseball standpoint, this is really concerning considering their rotation has started to deteriorate a bit from a production standpoint. And Aaron Nola came back, and everybody was like, this is great. We get Aaron Nola back, and he goes out there and he absolutely throws a dud against the worst team in baseball after looking sharp in AAA. How concerned are you about the Phillies rotation going into the last month and a half here of baseball, Joe?
I would definitely keep an eye on this whole blood clot thing, because if he gets put on blood thinners, then he's not going to be able to do anything baseball related until he's off the blood thinners, more than likely. So I would definitely would like to know what their plan of action is with that interesting injury to Zack Wheeler. But I think ultimately the Phillies rotation is going to be fine. I think Aaron Nola will be fine. He's just got to get back into the swing of things. He obviously hasn't had a good year, but has a proven track record. So, and then I would also take a look at Duran and make sure that he's good, because that was really the missing piece of the puzzle for the Phillies was the closer role, and they finally got that lockdown guy, and sounds like he just got banged up with a comebacker, and making sure that he's healthy and ready to go. But they still have those minor league guys that they could call up for extra inning eaters in September. I think their playoff spot's fine. Obviously, they want to win the division so they can don't have to play in a wild card game. But I mean, even worst case scenario, I would think that Zack Wheeler would be back in a month and a half from this blood clot issue. So I wouldn't put too much concern. It's more just holding down the fort and keep doing business as is.
Yeah, I think the rotation's good enough to do just that, which is just hold it down and get healthy. If Wheeler comes back, I think they can hold it down until then. But if this Wheeler thing turns out to be a thing where he's coming back right before the playoffs, I don't know how much time it's going to take him to get stretched out and back into form. You miss that much time, you may come back and be off just a little bit, and that would would kind of hurt having to deal with that going into the playoffs. So hopefully he can come back before then, because I'm sure, if he misses 3 or 4 weeks or isn't allowed to throw for 2 weeks, then he's going to have to go get a rehab game in and get stretched back out. So I know that this rotation's good enough to hold it down, but without him, this rotation is not good enough to make a run without him. I mean, Sanchez is good. I like Sanchez. But if Sanchez becomes your ace, that just totally changes the outlook of your rotation. And Wheeler, just obviously, he's been the best by WAR. He's been the best pitcher in baseball for like 3 years. So he
one
needs
of
to
my
get back.
one of my biggest concerns with that rotation, obviously, I have a huge concern with Aaron Nola. I understand that he's a proven arm. If we go back and kind of look at where he had a lot of success in his career, he started out a little shaky and his velo was down early. Like when he first started, he actually ramped his velo up to where he was almost averaging a fastball at almost 94 miles an hour during his kind of dominant stretch, if we want to call it. In the last 2 years now, his average fastball velo is now down significantly. This year it's almost down under 90, or right around 90 miles an hour, and he's getting touched up because of it. If we go back and look at his game logs over this season, he's had a total of 2 games under 2 runs allowed, and he's only had 3 games under 3 earned runs allowed. Every single other start has been 6, 6, 9, 4, 4, 6, 5, 5. It's not good. He's getting touched up really bad, and the home runs are plaguing him. He's already up to 11, and he's been out for, 2 months, almost 3 months. He's been out since March. April. Yeah, March, April. Oh, he's been out since May, I meant. So it's not like he's been pitching a lot, and he's still you look at his stats, they're not good. If you go and look at his Savant page, what's really plaguing him is, look at that fastball velo. Went from 92.1 average last year down to 91 average fastball velo this year. He's still getting some chase on his off speed, but he's getting touched up when he's in the zone.
Yeah, I mean, even last year with the 92 average, that was that's hard, deep blue. That is 20th percentile in fastball velo. It's just, you got to be totally locked in and hitting your spots and not missing your spots when you can't make mistakes when you throw 92.
He's always been susceptible to it.
Yeah, and that was last year when he was doing. Now this year it's even worse than that. It's down a point and a half. 2023 again 92, 2022 92. So I mean, and just coincidentally, all of these years he hasn't had great on-field success. He's had a expected ERA of 3.9 those years, which is, I mean, it's good enough for the bat. It's you got right at a 4 ERA. I'm not saying that that's not good enough to play in the big leagues. Obviously, he's a good enough big league pitcher, but you look at this rotation and you're looking at Wheeler and you pencil Nola in like he's just a lockdown number 2 guy, and that's just not the case anymore.
Well, I think that him having a chase percentage in the 98th percentile proves to me that he still has stuff that can miss barrels, and that you just got to assume he's going to figure it out. I mean, obviously this year seems like an anomaly, but even his expected ERA over the past 3 years has been under a 4. In 2022, it was a 2.74. So, I mean, and besides this year, he's had one other year of an expected ERA over 4. So to me, it's like if he's a solid 3, you're winning it as the Philadelphia Phillies. And you just got to assume over the next month and a half, you'll figure it out. I mean, this is only start number 1.
Yeah, I think
since returning. So
yeah. I think the thing that you look at the off-speed stuff, it definitely is encouraging when he's still getting swing and miss. I agree with that. I think the problem is as the velo starts to fall, can he figure it out enough to not be serving up homers in key spots? And that's really the thing that's been plaguing him. You can go out there and strike out 11 guys, but let's say you give up a walk, a hit, and then a homer. All of a sudden, you're down 3-0. You got to make sure that your team's able to handle that. And he's serving up homers a lot.
I just feel like there's a big difference between like a guy that used to throw 97 and now he throws 92 and you have that velocity drop than a guy that was throwing 92 and now he's throwing 91. Like, to me, like that velo drop's not a big deal. To me, it's more of just him not locating where he needs to locate this year. And there's probably some type of nagging issue that's been going on all year, and they did the Phantom IL thing and try and figure it out. And maybe he doesn't, but I would put my odds that he figures it out to be a serviceable starter for the Philadelphia Phillies for the remaining of the year. And if he happens to be a postseason guy where he's starting, I don't know, but he should at least be some type of like long relief, worst case scenario for the Phillies. And best case scenario, you have a low 2 or high 3 in your rotation.
Yeah, I look at the expected batting average against him over the last 5 years. And when he was really good, the expected batting average, he went on a 3-year run starting in 2020. It was the expecting batting average was 222, then the next year was 223, then the next year was 211. That's quality stuff. That's going to get it done. Then when he started struggling in 2023, the expected batting average is 240, 244, not good. Neither one of those are good. And then this year it's 284. I mean, guys are expected to hit 284 against him. So he's got to figure something out pretty quick. I would just, like Joe said.
Is the launch angle decreased this year?
I don't know. It's a good question. It sounds. What's the bat speed he's been facing? What kind of bat speed has he been going up against?
Yeah, we need to take a look. We need to dig into these numbers a little bit.
The launch angle has actually been I can give it to you. 2020 launch angle 8.6. Launch angle in 2021 14.4. 12.5, 12.7, 12.0, and 11.5. So launch angle hasn't moved a ton, but what has moved a ton is hard hit rate, hard contact. He's went from when he was peaking, he had a 31.6, which was top 8% of the MLB, and he's turned around to 38.5, which isn't good, 38.2, and then this year 43.6. None of those are very good.
He's getting beat bad, and
he's getting hit hard.
He's walking a lot of guys.
Yeah.
But that's the problem, right? And I agree, Joe. If he can figure it out and get a lot more swing and miss in key spots, that's probably good. But you look at his career walk percentage of 6.4%, that's a little bit on the higher end.
Yeah.
And if he's getting guys on base and he's not able to locate like he used to, and his velo's down, and I understand the velo being from 93 to 91 might not be too concerning, but a couple ticks down and guys are able to catch up to it, and he's serving up a lot of hard hit percentage, that's a recipe for a disaster in a postseason run. I think that maybe you use him a little bit sparingly in those spots, and he maybe is a long opener for you, but you don't let him through the lineup a third time. Maybe that's kind of the way that you work that in. But I think when we look at the overall of the Phillies rotation, there's another guy in that lineup in that rotation that has the same issue, and that's Ranger Suarez. And he's seeing the same type of decline here over his last 30 days. That's 28 innings. He has a 6.59 ERA with a 1.605 WHIP. He has struck out 23 batters in 28 innings. He only has one quality start during that time period in 5 games. The thing about it is when you have low velocity pitches, you really got to pick your spots. And the thing that we've seen with pitchers as they get a little bit older, they start losing a little bit of their consistency there, and they get touched up. Kyle Hendricks was another example in that. I know we've seen it through from Clayton Kershaw a bit as well. it happens. And I think Nola he's not a guy that's going to be an exception to that rule.
In his defense, he's only, 32? He's 32. He should be, he should be able to figure this out, but just the last 3, including this year, from 23 to now, it's just been a steady turn down. I guess he had a little bit better of a year in 24. But the Savant page wasn't. It's just been on a steady decline.
So maybe he was, to Joe's point of earlier about the Cubs lineup, maybe he was just having a couple of good years, and this is who he really is. This is more of what we should expect from Aaron Nola.
Well, no, Aaron Nola has a 5-year track record of being a pretty good pitcher in the bigs, and the majority of the Cubs lineup have 3 months of being solid.
Hey, data is data. I'm willing to look at it relatively. Yeah, I don't know, man. I am a little concerned, I will say, about the Phillies rotation. I think without Zack Wheeler, they become a lot less scary looking.
Yeah.
I know Sanchez is pretty good. Suarez, if he can get it back together, which I'm betting on that because he usually is able to go out there and throw a 7-8 inning game at low pitch count and just get a bunch of ground balls. I think he'll be able to keep his ERA in check. It's going to come down to, is Aaron Nola going to come back to being Aaron Nola? Because if that happens, then I think that rotation looks a lot scarier, especially if Zack Wheeler can get back. But right now, I'd say it's shaky. But yeah, to your point, Joe also mentioned Duran, right? Duran got injured. Luckily, the X-rays came back negative. He says he's feeling 100%. When I watched that game the other night, that did not feel. I was like, oh my God, he just tore his Achilles. That's what it looked like. The way he was walking and limping off the field. I've seen guys do that across multiple different sports. It did not look good at all. So for him to be 100% today is crazy and lucky. So you got to feel good if you're a Phillies fan on that.
Yeah, they need him, and they've got Alvarado coming back from suspension on the 19th.
Non-postseason
to slide in.
Arm though.
Yeah, but to get you in the playoffs and secure that division, they're going to use him. They're going to throw him out there. I bet they throw him out there in like the 7th and 8th inning again, and let Duran obviously be the closer. But to secure their spot in the playoffs when Alvarado's healthy, he's got the second best stuff in that bullpen now. So they're gonna throw him out there accordingly, which will help.
Let's talk about the next biggest, baddest, if not the biggest, baddest NL team that's not named the Brewers or the Phillies, and that's the Dodgers. The Dodgers went out and made a statement this weekend. They look kind of like themselves again. They went out and swept the Padres. They now have a 2-game, I'd call it a modest 2-game lead in the NL West, considering the upcoming season this weekend. It's still very much in play for the Padres. However, when you look at the 3-game series, the Dodgers went out. They delivered in key clutch moments, which is what we expect to see that from that Dodgers lineup. They pitched well overall. Snell was sharp. Kershaw was sharp. The good thing for them is they swept the Padres, and it was at home, and they looked really good. There was a couple close games. They got it done in clutch moments. The bad thing for them is they got to do it all over again this weekend at San Diego. Luckily, they have some really good pitching matchups this weekend for them as well. But, Joe, are the Dodgers back to being dominant, and we're not going to have to look back, and they're just going to run away with this thing toward the end of the season?
I think they're definitely big brother in this relationship, and that was the statement made this weekend. I also think it's the tale of starting pitching versus relief pitching, and everyone's been talking about the superstar-laden San Diego Padres bullpen, and they had to work a little bit, and eventually mistakes were happened. And even in today's game, they brought in Suarez as soon as they tied it in the 8th to make it 4-4. And Suarez gives up a leadoff bomb to Mookie Betts. 5-4 now, Dodgers.
Yep.
So to me, it's like, even in which we can talk about later when we get to the prediction side, but you look at the San Diego Padres starting pitching, and especially with Cease having a down year, like I just don't see, you can have the best bullpen in the world, but if your starters are only going to give you 4 or 5 innings and you're going to constantly put that stress on your bullpen, I don't care how good they are, they're eventually going to make mistakes. And I think that was really the difference of this series, as the Dodgers are starting to get back their cream of the crop, blue blood, stud starters, and they still have more coming, including Roki Sasaki. And, the Padres have to figure out a way to be able to get at least 5 or 6 innings from their guys routinely, or this star-staying bullpen is not going to be able to hold up, no matter how many studs they have in it. So I think it's going to be, I thought the Dodgers were going to pull away with it. Too many injuries happened where they just couldn't sustain the lead and build on it. But I think as you see them getting healthier down the stretch, they'll eventually win this division by 4 to 6 games, is what I would think.
Yeah, they're going to jump out here pretty quick this week, I believe. I mean, this is just call it a prediction, but the Dodgers play a 4-game series starting tomorrow against the Colorado Rockies in Colorado. So I can see the bats starting to get going. They're pitching Yamamoto, Sheehan, Ohtani, and Kershaw against Colorado. I don't think that Colorado is going to get a game from them in those 4 games, and San Diego has to play a 4-game series against San Francisco and face both Verlander and Robbie Ray during that series. So I'd assume you're probably going to drop at least 1 if you're San Diego to San Fran, and maybe 2. And that's going to put you a lot further behind and having to go into this weekend and then play again against the Dodgers, who are going to be all fired up.
Yeah, I mean, if the Dodgers keep pitching like they did this weekend, where they have their starters had a combined 1.9 ERA. They went 18 2/3 innings. They punched out a ton of guys. Everybody knows the Dodgers rotation. When it's healthy, it's probably the best in baseball. You've got arguably the best hitter in baseball. You've still got Freddie Freeman, who seems like he's turning it around. I think he went deep the other day in this game. Mookie Betts went deep in this series. The Dodgers are still the Dodgers, and it's like they've just like quietly been like the least talked about first place team, but they have one of the biggest payrolls in baseball. They've got stars littered all over their rotation, up and down that lineup, and the Padres just don't have enough. Like Joe said, this rotation's just, even Yu Darvish, like he's back. It's been bad since he's come back from injury. Dylan Cease is like the biggest head scratcher in baseball. The stuff is just so good. Every year, everybody talks about how good Dylan Cease is going to be, and then just it never pans out. And again, it didn't pan out in this series.
I got a quick stat on him, by the way.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Apparently, I heard this while watching the Padres-Dodgers series. Apparently, Cease is bottom 5 in walk rates this year, but he's top 3 or top 2 in strikeout rates. So he's like, it's all or nothing with him. He's you can either go up there and just stand and take 3 pitches and he's going to strike you out, or he's not going to throw you a single pitch in the zone, and he's going to put you on. And that has absolutely plagued him this year. But again, I mean, it kind of goes back to the same thing. The Dodgers just have a better roster. And by the way, they're still not at full health. I'm just going to rattle a couple guys that are still out for them. Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott is still out. Brock Stewart is still out. Tommy Edman is still out. Max Muncy is still out. Haesung Kim, who was great for them in his rookie year from an average standpoint and just an on-base machine, he's still out. Kike Hernandez is out. So, I mean, you just go up and down the list. I mean, it's just
Roki Sasaki.
Roki Sasaki's another guy that's also out. So it's just it kind of never ends. And now, as you're starting to get toward the end of the season here, and these guys are starting to get healthy, the the lineup is playing like it's supposed to be. I kind of agree with Joe. I see the Dodgers going and taking this division by. I might even be a little bit more ambitious than you, Joe. I think you said 4. I could see the Dodgers taking this by 6 or 7 by the end of the season easily.
Yeah, I mean, if they get all their guys back, why not?
They're coming.
Yeah, they're the best team in that division.
They're the best team in baseball when they're healthy.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
let's
they
call
really
it what
are.
it is.
And besides the Boston Red Sox, yeah, they are the best team in baseball.
Or the first half Cubs. So
also, interesting note: the Dodgers also own the tiebreaker against the Padres, so they have already locked that up as well. Even if San Diego sweeps them this weekend.
Yeah, I don't see it coming down to that, but I agree that's just another layer to add in there. And I don't know, man. The Padres got to show up against the Dodgers and show that they can beat them. They have another 3-game series this weekend, like we said. We'll have your predictions soon on that. Let's talk about another team though that's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, kind of like the Padres, and that's the Rangers. What's going on with the Rangers? This weekend they lose their series, and all of a sudden now they're down to a 12% chance to make the playoffs. Casey, can they make a resurgence? Are they going to do it? Are they going to pull it off and sneak in?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they are. Houston's getting what's the word on Jordan? Jordan coming back. He's rehabbing now. So the ops are getting stronger, and you still haven't figured it out, and the ops are getting stronger. They're getting back an absolute masher. I don't know, man. You would like to think so, but it seems like your pitching can only take you so far. At some point, you got to score a bunch of runs, and they just haven't seemed to do that consistently enough. It's like when either the bats are going, and then the pitchers have a random terrible outing, or the pitchers are going, and the Rangers score 1 run and they lose the game 3-1.
Yeah, I'm not feeling good about their
either.
Remaining schedule either. I'm just going to name a few teams that they still have to play. Kansas City, who's been playing a lot better. Cleveland, who's been playing pretty well as well. You still have to play Houston twice. You have to play the Brewers in a 3-game series. You have to travel to the Mets, who are going to be fighting for their playoff lives in September. And then you round out the season with a 3-game series in Cleveland to end the season for you. I don't like that. I don't like
brutal.
that if I'm a Rangers fan.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're the Rangers, you're now behind both the Indians and the Royals, and this is kind of the week for you to position yourself to get in striking distance of the Yankees, which can happen. And I think the Rangers are a better team. I think this is the week. It's make or break week for the Rangers this week, and if they can, go 3-1 against the Royals, it's a 4-game series, I think. They go 3-1 and then go 2-3 against the Indians. I mean, that should position them to be back in the hunt where they're a couple games back from the Yankees, especially depending on what the Red Sox do in their 4-game series with the Yanks. So big week with the Rangers. Hopefully they can turn it around offensively. I still believe in the pitching. I like their pitching matchups they have going this week. We will just see if they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, the biggest challenge you have right now, you kind of already mentioned it. You're chasing Cleveland and Kansas City, who are ahead of you in the AL wildcard chase. They're both playing significantly better than you. If you're the Rangers, you're 2-8 in your last 10. Those other two teams are going to be fighting for their lives as well. So these 2 series that they've got coming up should be really, really telling for kind of who wants it, who's better. Should be a fun week of baseball, honestly.
Yeah, I think I think this it kind of worked out good because I think they start with Kansas City first this week.
They do, yeah.
They've got Evaldi, DeGrom, and Merrill Kelly going. So like right there's your opportunity to turn it around, get out of this slump. What are they, like 5-12 in their last 17? Something. Let's see. Yeah, 5-12.
They're also pitching Corbin in their fourth game against Kansas City, who's been good this year.
Yeah. So I mean, now's their chance to just, ride the storm out, turn it around, and get back on track. But like you said, it's like you go from the Royals to the Guardians, and you've got a series against the Mets, you've got a series against Houston. It's going to be tough, and they just haven't been good enough offensively. Fangraphs has them at a 12.3% chance of making the playoffs. At the end of July 29th, that was at 51.4%. So that's a pretty significant drought there.
Yeah.
Coming out of the Rangers organization. 12.3% chance isn't very good. The good news for them is the Yankees suck. So, they may not have to be as good as we think they have to be to get it done. In Cleveland, they got hot, but they just got swept by the Braves. So they haven't been I don't know if it was just a little blip on the radar there, but the Braves aren't very good, and they just got swept by them. So
your biggest concern has to be the stretch between September 5th and September 17th. During that stretch, which is, I believe, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games. 12 straight games between that stretch. You're either playing Houston, Milwaukee, or the Mets. So that's gonna. If you can take if you can go 6-6 during that stretch,
you gotta be happy.
I think you're in a great spot. But that being said, you're gonna have to go out all those other series that we've mentioned and kick some ass.
Yeah, the Kansas City Royals series where you've got Evaldi, DeGrom, and Kelly going. You gotta win. You gotta win that series.
Yep.
Well, the good thing about two of those series with Houston and Milwaukee is that they are at home, and the Rangers are significantly better at home in the Great American Ballpark, I think is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Than they are on the road. Their home record is 37-26 compared to when they're on the road, they're 25-37. So I think having those matchups at home could be a big advantage to them. But eventually they're going to have to beat these teams that are ahead of them in series, which a lot of those do come on the road. So it starts this week. I think this is the big week. If the Rangers falter again this week, I think they are going to be completely out of it.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. We might be logging on next week and either saying Texas is back and they're going to make some noise, or hey, pack it up. We'll see you in 26.
Yeah, that's right.
Speaking of that, let's look at some of the midweek previewed matchups here. We've got the Brewers and Cubs, which we mentioned previously. So that's going to be actually 5 games. So they have a doubleheader starting Monday, which the Brewers are pitching both Woodruff and Peralta in that matchup. And then they also get Mizorowski back this week as well. I think Priester's getting in there. So the Cubs have their hands full. The lucky thing for them is they're at home for the 5 games, so at least maybe there's something there for them. But yeah, it's going to be a grind if you're the Cubs. But this is kind of a make or break right now.
They're at home, so Kyle Tucker can get booed loudly.
Hopefully he takes that to heart and actually starts trying. That would be awesome. Again, that starts tomorrow. The first game is going to be at 2:20. It'll be Cade Horton versus Peralta to kick it off. I believe it's on MLB Network, so go out and watch that game starting on I love Monday afternoon baseball. Let's get after it. Our next midweek preview is the Astros at Detroit. Good little matchup there.
Yeah.
Obviously, two first place teams in their division. I don't know. I think Detroit really needs to get it going and show that they're dominant again. I think this would be a perfect start to their week if they can kind of put a nice little series together against the Astros. Yeah, we agree. We all agree on that one. All right.
Agree.
Mariners at Phillies, another one. Mariners, I believe, just dropped the series this week against the Mets. So the Mets are starting to come back on track here a little bit. And the Phillies, we've kind of mentioned some of the starting pitching troubles for them. That's going to be a fun matchup to watch. A lot of star power in that game or in that matchup between the offenses. So looking forward to watching that. And then the Rangers at Royals, which we talked about it at length. That's going to be a key matchup just to see what happens in that AL wildcard race.
The Mariners traded for a third baseman that forgot how to hit.
Yeah.
He's got to figure it out.
Someone predicted that.
He's got to figure it out. I think he's going to figure it out. I'm not out on him, but they could use it.
Absolutely. Buttered, plain, and burnt. Let's get after it this week. It looks like we've got a couple of pitchers between the Red Sox and Yankees. Who do we got this week on buttered, plain, or burnt?
So we got Pedro Martínez, CC Sabathia, who is newly elected into the Hall of Fame, and Gerrit Cole.
Casey, we'll let you go first this week.
All right. Without looking at any numbers, I'm going to go.
Which is what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to go Pedro Buttered. I want to say Gerrit Cole. I want to say Gerrit Cole playing so badly.
Yeah, Pedro Buttered feels like the easy pick here. I'm going to go CC Plain, give the Hall of Famer his credit here. Cole, while he's obviously been a good pitcher over his career, I still think that if we were to take maybe the stretch of CC Sabathia, I think it would probably top the Gerrit Cole years. But we'll see. Joe, you want to give us the rundown of this one?
Yeah, you guys are definitely both correct with Pedro being buttered. It's honestly not even close. His 1997 to 2000 stretch, those seasons in 97, he had a 9 WAR, and then a 7.3 WAR, and then a 99 and 9.8 WAR, and then in 2000 a ridiculous 11.7 WAR, where he had a 1.74 ERA. He had 7 complete games, 4 shutouts, pitched 217 innings, had 284 strikeouts. Yeah, he was arguably probably a top 3 pitching performance year of all time in that year. And then in 2003, he also had another 8 WAR. And then his first year with the Mets in 2005, he had a 7 WAR. CC Sabathia's highest WAR year was a 6.7. So imagine, Pedro has another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons better than CC Sabathia's best season. Yeah. So really the conversation is between Gerrit Cole and CC Sabathia. Gerrit Cole also has a 6.7 WAR season in 2019 with the Houston Astros, where he had a 2.50 ERA, 212 innings pitched, and 326 strikeouts. But in 2023 with the New York Yankees, he had a 7.4 WAR, where he had a 2.63 ERA, 209 innings pitched, 222 strikeouts. He had a FIP of .981. In CC's best year, his FIP was a 1.115, where he threw 253 innings, had 251 strikeouts, and a 2.7 ERA. So obviously Gerrit Cole's career is still not done, still going, but at his current pace, it depends on how many seasons he throws. CC had a combined WAR of 61.8. Gerrit Cole currently has a combined WAR of 42.6. He's also had Tommy John twice, I believe. So he's missed 2 years. Pedro had a combined WAR of 86.1.
Just outrageous.
Yeah, so he had an additional 20 WAR on CC Sabathia.
Dude, that Gerrit Cole year with 326 strikeouts and 212 innings
is crazy.
Is That's not and it's not like he was walking a lot of guys either. He had a .89 whip that year.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I mean, I know that's why I just went him plain, because I remember some of those years were just outrageous.
So the big stretch that I was talking about with CC, this is why I still believe that he, even now knowing the stats, I still believe that he would be playing over Gerrit Cole, is if you look at the stretch between 2007 and 2009, and then again in 2011, he had over a 6.2 WAR every single season during that stretch. And when we're looking at peaks, which is what we typically do, we have the peak of CC Sabathia has been better than the peak of Gerrit Cole for any sustained stretch in his career. Gerrit Cole's had some excellent individual seasons, but he's not really put together great, like, elite stretches of baseball when you look at his WAR specifically.
Yeah. CC's never reached the mountaintop that Gerrit Cole has.
Right.
Which is
However,
a big payday.
Well, CC got a big payday. I think CC was the highest paid pitcher of his time when he signed with the Yankees in 2009.
Not $350 million or whatever it is.
Yeah, but at the time,
yeah,
when you count
relative
for sure, he was the highest paid starting pitcher of all time when he signed with the Yankees from Milwaukee, and won him a World Series that year. But both Pedro and Gerrit Cole also have World Series. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to choose. I think Gerrit Cole, stuff-wise, is better than CC's, and that's why he's able to have those seasons. Looks like Gerrit Cole got injured again. That might have been his first Tommy John with that 2.2 WAR, because he only had 10 starts.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, longevity is obviously part of the picture.
There was a stretch there where he had a 2.80 ERA followed by a 2.5 ERA followed by a 2.80 ERA, and then a 3.2, 3.5, and then 2.6. So, I mean, I don't know. I just when I think of just like a dominant pitcher, I'm thinking about those strikeouts, dude. And Gerrit Cole just, I mean, he runs away from Pedro, and as far as like single season strikeouts go. Obviously, Pedro did it for so much longer, so the overall number is not even close. But, 326 is higher than anybody's, without a doubt. 257, I think he led the MLB both of those years. 243, 222, 276. It's a lot of Ks, dude. The swing and miss is there. I just like his stuff better than CC's, but I do love CC Sabathia, without a doubt, but I just like Gerrit Cole's stuff a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, and Gerrit Cole already has the same amount of All-Star selection as CC Sabathia has, and they both each have a Cy Young. So, depending on how Gerrit Cole does after his robot arm comes back next year, I think the verdict is still out, but I do think the unanimous buttered pitcher by far is Pedro Martínez.
I have a feeling that wasn't done accidentally. Maybe to prove a point between Red Sox Yankees this weekend. Threw out an absolute legend at the pitching position against two maybe lesser Yankees.
Hey, go filter those career numbers by innings pitched. And I will say this is pretty compelling for CC. I mean, 253 innings, 241, 237, 237, 230, 211, 210, 200. I mean, this guy was just giving you innings every year. I mean, he went deeper. He gave you more innings than, I guess, his top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. His highest 8 years with innings pitched is higher than Pedro Martínez. Mm-hmm. So, getting giving your bullpen some rest and going deep into the game, CC Sabathia is probably better than all three of them, which is wild.
Well, CC was also known to not be susceptible to giving up a ton of home runs, which is one of the key things that allowed him to stay within the ball game a lot and pitch a lot of innings. Gerrit Cole has always had an issue with that. He actually topped out in 2022 with 33 home runs allowed, which was the most in baseball that season. He's allowed over 30 home runs in 2 separate years and almost a third separate year in 2019. So while he does have a lot of strikeout stuff, which we know that about him, it's kind of like the Aaron Nola thing. He goes and he does miss spots, but I think he's forgiven a lot of it because he's obviously an elite pitcher that gets a lot of strikeouts. I'd have to say I still stand by the CC Sabathia pick at Plain, but I do see. I mean, I was a little shocked to see a 7-4 WAR season from Gerrit Cole. I think if he gets healthy and has his robo arm, I think in the long run he could be the Plain over CC. I think as it stands right now and what we know on stats, I'd still have to stay with my pick.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, CC threw an additional year than Pedro did.
That's crazy.
7 more than Gerrit Cole right now. And that's
He was a bulldog, dude.
He was a bulldog for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy when you look at those WAR seasons though from Pedro, man. I mean, are we kidding? 11-7.
Best physique
9.
too out of all of them.
And let's be honest, if this was now, if Pedro was having these seasons right now, he would have 3 MVPs. Because the way that
Pedro's WAR would be like a 15 in today's game.
Yeah, and the way that we look at WAR,
Barry Bonds and the entire steroided Yankees, and
exactly. The way we look at WAR these days, he'd be top of the MVP rankings every single year, and he never had an MVP. His top finish was second, but the year that he posted an 11-7, he came in 5th in MVP rankings that year, which is outrageous in today's MLB environment. But when you look at the names ahead of him, Giambi, Frank Thomas, Alex Rodriguez, and Delgado, those were the years where if you didn't mash 40 homers, then it didn't matter.
And none of them had a higher WAR than Pedro.
No, nobody even came
A-Rod
close.
had a 10-4.
10-4 was close.
None of them tossed Don Zimmer to the turf either.
No, none
Shout
did.
out to Pedro. Don't mess with Pedro, dude.
Do not mess with Pedro, dude.
I saw a I was watching Gary Sheffield talking about an at bat against Pedro, and I guess Pedro had a thing where if you ever call time, this was back when there wasn't a limit on timeouts, and so batters would go up there and a pitcher would start their wind up, and a batter would just call time and step out of the box. Where I guess Pedro was just like notorious for throwing at you if you did this. And so Gary Sheffield's up and he calls time as Pedro starts his windup. And Pedro gets back on the mound, steps off for like a second, gets back. Gary Sheffield gets back in, very next pitch. Right at Gary Sheffield's shoulder, beams him. Gary Sheffield gets pissed. They interview Gary Sheffield and he's like, dude, it's crazy, man, because the way he looked at me after that, and if you look at Pedro's eyes, it was just like a death stare, dude. He's like 5'11", but when he's on the mound, dude, he's the most intimidating, like, psycho, like, I will hurt you. I will throw it at your head if you get me out of my rhythm, And so he was just dominant, man, very intimidating, and even guys like Gary Sheffield, he said, I never call timeout after that with Pedro Martínez on the mound, so...
Yeah, Pedro Martínez, absolute sicko. Not a huge dude by any means, but definitely not a guy that you want to see opposing you on the mound for sure.
Nope.
Standings time. Let's take a look at the standings. We've kind of talked a little bit about the National League, but we'll run through these quick. The National League Central sitting there with the Milwaukee Brewers with an 8-game lead over the Chicago Cubs. 2 teams in the 70-win column in that division, and the Reds 5 games back from that. The NL East we have the Philadelphia Phillies still at that 5 games over the Mets. They haven't put that pedal to the metal like we said they should. And now it's starting to look like they may have waited too long. The Mets are starting to get it going a little bit. Mets are 5 games out, and then the Marlins in third place. However, don't sleep on the Braves. All of a sudden, 8-2 in their last 10, and I believe this month they are 11-5 overall for August. So
We're back,
good stretch
baby.
here by the Braves. They're not going to make a run at the wild card, but would be good to see them get into form before next season. The NL West, as we talked about, the Dodgers swept the San Diego Padres and now have a 2-game lead on them. It is a 2-team race in the NL West. The Giants have fallen to 11 games out of first place, and the Diamondbacks 11.5 out of first place. So that's going to come down to Padres or Dodgers. We seem to think on this panel it's going to be the Dodgers overwhelmingly. And then the AL, we still have the Toronto Blue Jays leading the East by 5 games over the second place Boston Red Sox, 5.5 games over the third place New York Yankees, who are in that last wild card spot right now. And that is your AL East because nothing else is happening there with the Rays and Orioles, both double-digit games out. And then we also have the AL Central. That one's starting to look like a pull away again a little bit. We saw the Cleveland Guardians get pretty close. It looks like it's now pulling back a little bit. Tigers are now 8.5 games in first place after a 7-3 stretch that they've gone on. They do have that series with Houston. We'll have to see what happens with that. But that one's starting to look a little bit more safe for the Tigers. And then lastly, we've got the AL West. The Houston Astros with a razor-thin margin over the Seattle Mariners. Had the Mariners won today, it would have been a different discussion. 1.5 games out of first place, and the Rangers sitting at 7.5 games out. That's pretty much everybody that's vying for first place. However, Angels could make a run. They're only 9 games out of first place. I don't think it's going to happen by any means, but it is kind of odd to see them just kind of sitting there waiting in the water. Astros have a lot of work to do to shore up that West Division. All right, and that is your quick recap of the current standings and your wild card outlook right now. You've got Seattle, Boston, and the Yankees in the AL, and the Cleveland Guardians and Royals both vying for that third spot. And then in the wild card in the NL, we've got Chicago with 5 games up. San Diego 3 games up. Mets maintain that third and final wild card spot. All right. Talk about a little bit of last week's predictions here. Joe, how did we do? I already have a sad tone in my voice because I feel like it wasn't great.
Yeah, no one did great. Casey and I both went 1-3 on the week, and the host with the most went 0-4 for I think the second time this year, maybe third time.
Not definitely not third, but definitely probably maybe second time.
Which gives our combined season total myself at 46-35, AJ at 32-49, and Casey at 19-18.
Yeah, it's looking like it might be a runaway down the stretch here on even the win percentage, Casey. You're going to have a hell of a week to get back into this.
Yeah, I need it. The frickin', and not that it would have mattered because I think we all picked the Mariners, but the Mets beating the Mariners was a big shocker for me. I thought for sure the Mariners would get that series because they were throwing some dudes.
I agree. I think one thing that was weird to me was the fact that this third game was like the Little League. I didn't know that. I don't know that it would have changed my vote on it either, but that's so weird to get out of a rhythm and have to travel to Pennsylvania and then do all this stuff for one game. So that was kind of odd and thrown in there. But I agree. That was probably the most shocking. I think the second most shocking has to be the Rangers just getting curb stomped by the Blue Jays, especially in that like 14-1 game. Did not see that coming.
Yeah.
Joe, I know you're most shocked at the Brewers taking the Reds. I still believe in our pick there. I would pick them again.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the right pick. We just got a little hosed, a little bad luck, but
so anytime anytime you guys lose and I get it right, we talk about how you guys get hosed instead of giving me some props.
Yeah.
Why not ride the hot hand? It's the Brewers; they can't lose. You know.
Yeah, I mean, they were down 8-1.
Casey, you're right. No, he's right. We got to give Casey a lot of moxie for going out there and picking the hottest team in baseball.
Yeah, it's like,
that's
hey,
such a hard pick.
They're not playing the Dodgers. It's like they're playing the Reds, and they're the hottest team in baseball right now. Yeah, give them to me.
Yeah, I would still pick the Reds. I think that they had that second game in their hands and they let it slip. And to be honest, I was going to say, if we're calling it what it is, it could have been a sweep for the Reds, and they ended up going 1-2. Brutal for the fighting Tito's over there. So how are you guys feeling about fantasy baseball right now? We're kind of in the nitty gritty of it. We're a week out here from shoring up the playoffs. I will say I'm feeling pretty good based on how my team has performed thus far in this matchup versus Joe. It would actually put me, if everything just ended today, which I wish it would, because that would just make me really happy. I would be the season champ, the
regular season champion, dude.
Which has never happened. It's never happened before for me.
Yep. I have a 2-year win streak on regular season champion, so I hold it dear to my heart. Got some work to do, but I think I've scrapped back to make it a very compelling last week in a lot of different categories.
I would agree. I was a little nervous going into today. I thought it might have flipped even more than it did. Right now, I'm sitting at 9 categories, 1 3 loss and 1 tied with you, making you 3-9-1. But to your point, runs are tied. We're 4 off on home runs, less than 10 on RBIs, less than 1 on stolen bases. It's tight. It's really tight. And then you look at pitching, 1 on quality starts away, 2 on holds, less than 10 on Ks. The ratios are the only ones that are kind of sticking right now. But yeah, we're tight. It's gonna be a grind down the stretch here.
Yeah. Yep.
Casey,
I think I was down 1.
We're gonna give you
some props.
Yeah, you fought back after when we did this podcast last week. Joe, you got to correct me if I'm wrong on this. It was like 1-11-1 or something like that. And now here we sit, and you are winning your matchup 7-5-1. I'm gonna give you a round of applause for that one. I'm feeling pretty good.
Should have been that all year.
Shout him out. Shout him out.
My baseball team getting back in the win column was always inevitable. The roster's just way too good to have the record I have. So big shout out to Kyle Manzardo, who is a key addition since I've got 1,000 guys hurt. Kyle Manzardo scooped him up about a week ago, actually. He's been red hot. Helped me grind out some home run category and RBI category. Jackson Holiday starting to hit again. Junior Cabanero's hit like 1,000 home runs in the last 2 weeks. We'll get into that on the hot or not list. And getting healthy again. Ronald Acuna back in the lineup. Hunter Green back out. Hunter Green's first outing. I think he went six innings, no runs. Or maybe 6 innings, 1 run. So, yeah, it's always just been a health thing, dude. It's always been a health thing. Just got to get the boys back. And hopefully I can spoil a couple playoff spots here this week and look forward to next year. Dynasty, baby.
Yeah, we would need you to continue this little stretch of yours here. 1 more week, and it would put me and Joe not having to face off for another 2-week matchup. 4 straight weeks of having to face each other would not be ideal, but we'll do it if we have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, this would be a pretty tight race down the stretch here, if you can keep it the way it is.
Well, I was planning on chasing some saves, but Josh Hader out for the year. Another closer of mine that has been totally derailed. Start this year off with Alvarado, Helsley, Hader, looking really good in the bullpen, and none of those guys are currently closing.
Yeah, that's just how it goes.
Duvall was closing. He's no longer closing. AJ
Fantasy,
Puck was closing, no longer closing.
Fantasy baseball is one of those things, especially, I think we've said it before, maybe multiple times. If you get the holds category in your fantasy league, it creates a completely different dynamic because the guys that, like we just said, right, all these guys, they don't lose all their value.
Right.
Because in the past, it was like, Durant
if he's not closing, he's a wash.
Let's say Durant gets traded, and all of a sudden he's the setup guy. All of a sudden it's like, I'm dropping Johan Durant? Like,
yeah.
what?
So gotta have holds.
You got to have holds. Or at least, you just have to have holds, man. You got to go out there and just make the change in your fantasy team. It'll benefit you in the long run.
Yeah.
Speaking of fantasy baseball, there's a lot of injuries right now, man. If you could see my lineup, I think I've got at least 7 guys, if not 8 guys, that are all on the IL right now. And I know everybody's fighting with that toward the end of the season here. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an update on a couple of guys here. Marcelo Mayer opted to have season-ending wrist surgery, so he is done for the year. I think it's probably a good move for him, and get him healthy and come back next year. Joe, I think you and I both agree that the Red Sox are going to be looking really formidable next year. I think it'd be good to have him fully healthy and back, and probably a smart move to opt for that season-ending surgery. Don't push it.
Yeah, he's just a guy that he's never played a full season of minor league baseball either because of some type of injury, so he's pretty injury prone. This is a nagging injury from his minor league career, and so I guess we're just gonna opt and get surgery, and the Red Sox roster flexibility weeps.
Yeah.
And
has he had a surgery on that before, or just like injuries?
No, they usually just shut him down.
Yeah.
When he was in the minors, but it's different now when you're in the show.
Yeah.
You got to come out and do what you got to do for the team, but it is what it is. It is what it is. So hopefully he comes back ready to rock and roll in 2026.
Well, here's a big name as well that's out for the remainder of the season with a shoulder capsule sprain injury. Don't ask me exactly what that is, but it's enough to keep you out for the rest of the season for Josh Hader. It does say that he can return for the playoffs potentially. He's hoping to be able to return for the playoffs. I will say, if you're the Rangers, that's a guy that you don't mind seeing go to the shelf for the rest of the year, because you won't have to face him in the next 6 matchups that you have with the Astros. And then if he's healthy in the playoffs, obviously that's going to be only a good thing for the Astros. So hopefully they can just stay afloat, keep themselves in the division lead there, and not have to worry about Josh Hader being out for the rest of the playoffs as well. Another guy, Kyle Stowers, injured with an oblique strain. Those are talk about another nagging injury. Those are injuries that just seem to be ones that take forever to heal, depending on the grade. And then once they do heal, they're easy to re-injure.
Austin Riley.
Yeah, so hopefully that's something that's not a serious strain. I don't know the grade on that. We'll have to take a look at that. But tough break for Kyle Stowers, having a really, really good rookie year.
Tough break for the Cravos, right?
Yeah, big break for our number 1 overall fantasy team right now going into the playoffs. And then the last one we have here is Yordan Alvarez. So this is actually some good news on the good news front here. He began a rehab assignment, could be back this coming week. Would love to see Yordan Alvarez back on the field and in the lineup. Baseball's better when Yordan is playing. He's one of the best hitters, probably top 3 or 5 hitters in baseball. Just would love to see him back. in mashing homers over there for Houston.
Right on time, dude. He's got a little time to get stretched out and get hot right in time for the playoffs.
Absolutely. So, hot or not, you know what? Casey, I'm just going to let you give us the hot here. Give us the skinny on the hot, guys.
So hot right now is Pete Crow. The hot right now is Michael Harris hitting 370 with 5 jacks, 14 RBIs, 2 swipes, a 1.111 OPS. And he has he made a major change with his mechanics. His hands at the beginning of the year were like at the start, they were like underneath his shoulder. So like his hands were just super, super low. And if you go look at his hands since the All-Star break, they're like really high back to how he was when he was a rookie. And it's really weird how that happened. I don't know how his hands just started here in his career and slowly worked down to like that Jason Hayward beginning where the hands are just really low, but somehow they got to that point and now they're back up high and seems to be paying off because he's absolutely raking. Julio Rodriguez is doing what he does and turning it on in the second half. He's hitting 327, 5 jacks, 12 RBIs, 3 swipes, a 1,092 OPS. Jacob Marcy hitting 347, 3 jacks, 13 RBIs, 2 swipes, 1189 OPS. Junior Cabanero is hitting 340 with 8 jacks. He like goes deep every night. It's wild. I think he's on pace for like 42 home runs, 43 home runs right now, which has only been done, I think, 3 or 4 times from a 21-year-old. He's got 8 home runs in the last 14 days, 14 RBI, 0 swipe, 1.222 OPS. And then Jacob Lopez has been dealing 14.2 innings pitched, 19 Ks, 0 earned runs, and a .48 whip in 2 starts. That's nuts.
Quality starts.
2 quality starts.
2 quality starts? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, a couple things to mention. Julio Rodriguez, don't look now, all of a sudden has a chance at a 30-30 season. So big time for him there. Shows some growth, which I think Seattle has been waiting to see him take another step forward. This seems like he's starting to do it down the stretch here. Jacob Marcy, from a fantasy perspective, only 63% owned for the Miami Marlins. Could be a sneaky guy to go out and grab off waivers if he's available. Most trade deadlines have already passed at this point. But if you're looking long term, he's also only 24 years old, so maybe a good dynasty play there. So yeah, and then obviously Junior Caminero, man, that guy is just an animal at the plate. The bat speed is absolutely elite.
Bat speed,
and you can't sleep on it. On it. And then our not guys, we've got Cody Bellinger, a .133 average, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, 1 stolen base, and a .487 OPS. Yuck. Don't love that. .175 average for CJ Abrams, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 0 stolen bases with a .523 OPS. A little bit better, but still not great. Eugenio Suarez with a 125 average, 2 homers, 7 ribbies, 2 stolen bases, and a .460 OPS. That's definitely not what the doctor ordered if you're Seattle. And then Cedric Mullins, he has a 163 average, 1 homer, 4 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, and a .539 OPS. And then our good buddy Max Fried for the Yankees, really struggling. Just got touched up for a 7 earned run outing the other day. 15 innings pitched, 16 strikeouts, which is unlike him, by the way. He's usually a little higher than a 1-to-1. 9 ERA, a 1.93 whip is really concerning, and that's over 3 starts. Yankees need Max Fried to be Max Fried.
Can we keep blaming it on the blisters, or at some point is it like, hold on?
I don't know. It seems like something's going on there.
It's tough moving from the National League to the American League.
Listen.
I don't know how many times it has to be said.
Listen.
It's difficult to do.
I think there's a lot more going on there. I will say it's always very concerning when you have a guy like Max Fried who's been relatively dominant his entire career. He's dominant at the start of this year, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere he just starts not being dominant. That's always a concerning thing when you're a pitcher, and you start to wonder what's going on. Is it a mechanical issue? Is it something more from an injury just waiting to happen type thing? Are we looking at the velos? Are they down? What's going on with them? Something seems to be off, though, for sure.
Let's see here. I mean, the velo looks pretty good. It's 94.6. Last year it was 93.8, so it's up a little bit.
I guess we'd have to look at the first half and second halves. That's where my concern is, because in the first half he was still. I mean, we're talking he was vying for the All-Star starter position.
Oh yeah, I know.
So after the All-Star break, something happened there, and I know the blister did come into play there, so that it could be causing an issue, but it seems a bit prolonged at this point.
Yeah, he's got to figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. And then finally, we're here. We've met our final segment of the episode here, our series to watch. And Joe, you want to give us our first rundown of pitching matchups for the biggest matchup of the week, at least in your eyes, I would assume, the Boston Red Sox at the New York Yankees. We have a 4-game series. We actually got this one correct.
4-game. We have a 4-game series and a 5-game series and another 4-game series this week. We're all over it. Also, breaking news, the Red Sox have officially signed Nathaniel Lowe to the team. Play some
news.
First base. So he's now a Red Sox.
Was he already picked up by you on fantasy?
No.
You guys had a DH at the beginning of the year that could have played first.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, and also really good against righties. But Nathaniel Lowe is the new man in town. So,
hey,
yeah.
He's going to be really good for your
boosting
lineup.
the roster.
665 OPS on the year, a 216 average, slugging just 373. Struck out 130 times in 440 at-bats. A lot to look forward to there.
Well, they actually have a first baseman now, it only took 2/3 of the year to get there, but we got him now. We got a first baseman on the roster. So
he's going to slot in so well with the second place Boston Red Sox. All right.
For now.
Let's go ahead and get our pitching matchups for this Boston Red Sox Yankees series.
Yeah. Thursday, we got Lucas Giolito versus Heel. Friday, we got Brian Bayo versus Maximus Fried. Saturday is Crochet Day versus Warren. And Sunday is Dustin May versus Carlos Rodon. I think the Red Sox have a big advantage, even that it's being at New York, because New York has to play the Rays in Tampa Tuesday and Wednesday, and then they fly out and play the second place Boston Red Sox on Thursday, while Boston plays the Orioles Monday and Tuesday, and then get an off day to travel to New York. So I like that. I like the pitchers they're throwing. I think each team is throwing the best they got. I like the Red Sox staff even better. I think it's a simple 3-1 Red Sox victory.
I'm gonna switch it up here. So I originally was planning on a split here. I really do think that the Red Sox have the better pitching matchups this week, but I'm going 3-1 Yankees at home, sitting on the precipice of being knocked out of the wild card. I think their backs are against the wall. I think Judge is going to have a good series finally and start to get in a good rhythm here. Give me the Yanks 3-1 at home.
Shoo.
They lose the crochet game, by the way. That's an easy one.
Yeah, I've got the Sox 3-1. I like Giolito and Bayo. If Fried was pitching well, it's hard for me to expect Fried to, put his team in position to win right now. It's been a long stretch of him doing the opposite. So, and then obviously Crochet should get it done. And I mean, even that last game, May has really good stuff. So, I think if the Yankees win one, it'll be that game. So I've got the Red Sox 3-1.
Yeah, Fried's got it. This has got to be the week for me. If Fried comes back,
you need Fried.
I gotta have Fried bounce back from a 7 earned run outing against the Cardinals. Our second big series to watch this weekend is going to be a repeat of last week. The Dodgers, but now at the Padres. Joe, go ahead and give us those pitching matchups for this weekend.
And we got Blake Snell versus Yu Darvish on Friday, Tyler Glasnow versus Nestor Cortez on Saturday, and Yamamoto versus Nicholas Pivetta on Sunday. I could easily see another Dodger sweep. I just don't like the odds of that, so I'm taking Dodgers 2 out of 3 against the Padres.
Yeah, the biggest issue for me, taking the Dodgers here, I'm going to do it. I think they're going to win 2-1. I like the pitching matchups way better for the Dodgers. The only thing that always scares me off with picking against San Diego at home is they're 38-20 at home. They're a really good home team, and I could see them just sneaking out 2 games somewhere there. But give me the Dodgers 2-1. I think that they're just in a groove right now.
Yeah, Snell, Glasnow, Yamamoto, Dodgers 2-1.
Too easy. And then our third series to watch this weekend, we talked about it earlier on the show, but we've got the Cleveland Indians going against the Texas Rangers. This one's going to be a barn burner. Joe, give us our matchups here.
Yeah, Friday we got Sassoni versus Nathan Eovaldi. We got Allen versus Leiter and Williams versus Kelly. I think the Rangers are going to be too much. They play really good at home, so 2 out of 3 for the Rangers.
Yeah, I'd say similar to the situation with the Padres. The Rangers are, like you said, a good team at home, 37-26 on the year. I like the pitching for the Rangers better. I do think this is going to be a high-scoring series. I don't think that the Rangers are pitching their best guys, so I could see it being high-scoring. But give me the Rangers sweeping the Cleveland Indians this week.
Yeah, I'm going Rangers 2-1. I just watched Cleveland against the Braves, and they didn't impress me all that much. Eovaldi's going. Jack Leader's been good. So, yeah, give me the Rangers. 2-1.
And lastly here, we've got the Royals at Tigers this weekend. Joe, go ahead and give us the pitching matchups here.
Yeah, we got Bergert versus Mize, Michael Wacha versus Paddock on Saturday, and Seth Lugo versus Jack Flaherty on Sunday. Not feeling crazy about this matchup, but I think the Tigers are going to lose the series just because, and I have the Royals winning 2 out of 3 in Detroit.
Yeah, I think kind of going back to the same situation here, but I think that the Texas Rangers are going to handle the Royals earlier in the week. It's going to drop them into a really scary place outside of the wild card, and I think the Detroit Tigers are going to put them in their place well outside of the wild card. Give me the Tigers 2-1 over the Royals. Tigers at home.
Yeah, me and AJ riding this one out with the Tigers. I like the Tigers 2-1. Give me the Mize game and the Flaherty game. And even that Wacha Paddock's kind of a toss-up. So, yeah, I like the Tigers. Better team.
I thought about a sweep there, but I couldn't go Rangers sweep and Tigers sweep. I would just that's too ballsy here at the end.
Yeah, and Tigers at home. I like the Tigers.
Gotta like that. Yeah, I mean, that's going to pretty much do it for us here this week on Toast Sports Baseball. If you guys enjoyed episode 22, don't forget to follow the show so you never miss an episode. We're here every single week. In the meantime, we will be back, and go ahead and stay toasty. We'll see you next week.